and real estate is fun. And I think that the building that we work in is, it's a weird place. Like sometimes I walk down and there's like a bunch of puppies downstairs because we're doing like a dog charity thing. Other times like you go upstairs and there's Netflix cameras. Like you just don't, it's a weird place to work. It's a fun place to work. I think it's never, I've only been there 2 years. It's never been more fun than, I've never done this before. I've never thrown an event actually. Like I was like, I think I can do this. I'd seen some, and every time I got scared, I just remember, once I do this, I will never be able to say that I didn't do it again. I struggle with it myself, but I can tell you how I like to receive it, which is like short and to the point. And it's just like, yeah, hey, I wouldn't have done that. Here's what you should do next time. I could not agree with that more. I always have a backup plan too. It's the producer in me. I used to time the shows. So I was like, yeah, if this person's late, if the presser like gets canceled, like I have backup plans. And I approach my whole career that way.
Sell It 2024. I was at that summit. You had me speak, which I feel was an honor and a coming home story for me. But I'm in a lot of ecosystems. I speak on a lot of stages. That was one of the best run events I have ever seen value-wise. Why don't you give me an idea of what it was like to produce an event like Sell It in 2024?
You know, so it was my second large event that we have done for Sell It. The first one was crazy. It was in Miami. I was really new to the company, and there were some other people who were helping. It's always a team effort, right? But this one, this was all on me, and I did volunteer for that. I was like, I got this. I can throw this event. I learned so much more. I learned so much from Miami, right? The first time we did it. One, which is that less is more. I do believe that when it comes to an event like this, you can easily overprogram. It's a really, I think that's kind of your gut too. You're asking people to pay money to fly into New York City, expensive city. You're going to come here. We have to give you so much. And that's true. But really, it's like quality, not quantity. And I think you can run into these issues where people actually want to hang out. They want to learn. And that was key, right? So we're like, okay, what are we going to do? This is about owning your success, right? We want to, obviously that's something that Ryan does. It's kind of what we were just talking about with social in general. Like, sure. How do we convince people to own your success? Do you need 2 days of content for that? Or can we get like the best people to get on that stage, give people advice on how to brand themselves, how to be bold, how to ask for help, and how to talk about what you've done in your career in a way that resonates with people, that will bring you new clients, that will help build your business. I knew the answer was we can do this in one day. And I knew that. We did it. We did a VIP dinner, a lot of fun. But it was like I think the key here is that like every single thing on stage is can't miss. And then we had breaks and we have lunch and we have a party and everyone feels like they got a chance to talk to each other and connect. Because I think that's another thing with these conferences is sometimes you're just like, you're getting shuffled in and out of rooms. You don't see those people. And that's one, the venue was really helpful for that. Like, it took us a lot of time to find the right spot, the place that felt like Serhant. For those of you who weren't there were like screens everywhere. From a production standpoint, by the way, terrified. Because like we get Ryan Serhant to agree to this. Like he goes in, he loves it. Then we got to make sure that room looks really cool. And that was, it was again, team efforts. We had our graphics team, we had our ID lab studios creating these incredible things. We worked with Moonlight Studios, which is where we held the event, and we did a ton of practice run throughs. And we were still like creating this content that were going to go on these screens, that were going to be in these talks like the night before, which is also like, it happens every time. And I think that's, knowing this wasn't my first one, like that did not scare me. And I have a live TV background. I like, let's edit on the fly, let's scrap it, let's change it. But there were so many new things, like these amazing screens that we had updates for, like every time someone went on stage, like it had to change, it had to be perfect. And like that all went off without a hitch, but it was a lot of pressure. We'd never done that before. So even though we'd done these events and I felt really confident about my part of the job, there was a lot of things that we hadn't done. So yeah, that was
breaking that down. So it's interesting. I'll give you some perspective from the other side. Sure. Because now it makes sense. Like when I went there, I was smiling ear to ear at the beginning when you're like, well, we want to do a little bit less in terms of programming. Like, bro, like we were there for 3 days. And when I got home, I was raving about how every day was stacked. Now we had a travel fly-in day because I was at the VIP dinner the night before.
Yeah.
Got there earlier. We were vlogging. So actually Spencer linked the video to the vlog on the YouTube channel so people could see it. If you're listening to the audio podcast, go to YouTube. You can actually see the event. I did a day where we were vlogging and I lost my camera actually in the Uber. I went to Talia's. Thankfully, I had a second camera. I went through a $12 million listing with Talia. I got to meet her in person. I've known her for years. And it was wild. Did the dinner at nighttime. Next day, the programming that you guys had. What I found was fascinating was each place I went to was like a different group of people. Like went to the Serhant offices the day before the event and met a whole bunch of people. Then went to the dinner, and then I went to the actual event itself. And then you guys did like a cocktail hour back at the office. Then I went back to the event, and you had like clients and Serhant agents and sell it people. And I said this to so many people after. I was like, it was so smart the way that they did it because it wasn't a sales event. Like a lot of conferences you go to, it's pay to play. They're just putting you in a funnel. You can feel it. Like I'm pretty sure I was sitting next to a billionaire, you know, when grabbing a drink, hanging out. I was grabbing sparkling water because I don't drink. But he was sober too. And I was like, we started talking and he was pointing out people in the room. And he was like, yeah, this is how you navigate New York events. And you know, the real players are there tactically and talking. And then you have the people that are partying and having fun. And then you have the people that are really having fun. And like, it was interesting because I got to be part of something where there was education. I got to network with people I've known for years. And then I got to meet people that I would have never met had I not been in that ecosystem. And I think that's the story for me from the other side was it wasn't just another sales conference. To me, what it was is it was the ecosystem that I've been part of for so long evolved from what it was back in 2018 when I met Ryan and the team to something that like I knew was his vision back then, but to see it actually come to life with the team and everybody on the back end actually executing his crazy ideas was pretty cool to see.
I am not exaggerating when I say that event was the highlight of my career. Like everything came together perfectly. And also it's funny when I did say it, was like we scaled back, we did less at Serhant is still like a lot. Like there was still multiple days of things. You know, the approach that we take at Sell It is sales training that doesn't suck. I wish I could coin that. That's a Ryanism. And that's how I approach this as well. You know, like we weren't going to sit up. Like I'm not going to have someone get up on stage and just be like objection handling, you know, like there's so many different parts of sales and branding, which is why we had, you know, we talked about how to build a team, which if you're in real estate or not, like you need to know how to do that. That's why we had the
new development. That session was unreal. They actually talked about how they pitch. I got to ask a question about how do they keep them up to date. And if nothing's selling, like some really cool stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's another part of what made this really fun and exciting was we got to peel back the curtain of so many hardworking people at Serhant. Our new dev team is like crazy talented, and they're all so smart. So getting to put a spotlight on them, what a blast! And then you know I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the Owning Manhattan reunion, which was a blast as well.
That was unreal. The games and everything during the session
and
were fun too.
It was Ryan's idea to do the reunion, and I was so excited and so scared because that felt so easy to mess up. We wanted it to be fun. We wanted it to be interesting. We wanted it to be a little bit Andy Cohen reunion, watch what happens live kind of thing. And I knew I could do it, but I still had to like sit down with Ryan and a bunch of other people and walk him through not only
did you call legal for that one to go over some details?
I did, although you know we're really into we like to seek forgiveness rather than
I understand
in a lot of ways.
Way to do it.
But we, you know, I had to sit him down and be like, okay, so here's what we're gonna do with the cast for the next hour, and then just kind of like held my breath like while it was, especially when I was pitching the games, because I'd got and luckily everything. He said no to nothing, which was really, really fun and really exciting. It was a blast.
So actually at the dinner, I had a conversation with Ryan and some of the team about Netflix particularly. And I saw just from the outside, I was like, you know, I think Netflix is really smart with how they're approaching Owning Manhattan. You guys, because normally, like, and you could probably give us more insights being from the production world, the TV company has almost full control of the entire operation and it's got to fit in this box. Netflix as a streaming service, I think, realized you guys have a significant platform on your own. 1+1=3. And they actually let you guys do your own thing and give you creative control, which is why that show did so well. It was very raw, very real and organic. It almost felt like a vlog on steroids, truthfully, right? And I think that translated very, very well.
Yeah, I think Ryan is absolutely he's earned the trust of any production team. And I think what he is able to do, he's so entertaining, right? And real estate is fun. And I think that the building that we work in is it's a weird place. Like sometimes I walk down and there's like a bunch of puppies downstairs because we're doing like a dog charity thing. Other times, like you go upstairs and there's Netflix cameras. Like you just don't. It's a weird place to work. It's a fun place to work. I think it's never. I have not. I've only been there 2 years. It's never been more fun than it is right now.
Yeah.
Just because I think that there is. I think people really respond to Ryan. He's an authentic guy. I think that the cast that is part of the show all found ways to be authentic. It's been really fun to watch them kind of rise and get more recognition. And the coolest part, I think, is that when I walk out of the building and I see someone taking a photo of themselves outside it, like no matter what happens, because not every day, there aren't puppies downstairs every day. We don't have parties and events every day. Whenever you're having, but if you're having a hard day, if things aren't going right and you just see someone snapping a photo out of the building that you walk into every day, it's such a privilege. And it makes me just like kind of like pinch myself and be like, whatever you're worried about, like shut up. Like this is really cool. There are people who are dying to be where you are. And I think there's a little bit of that. I think that's also why the show is successful. Like it is a fun place to work. We do have a bunch of real estate agents are characters. Ryan is a character. And getting to hang out with these people for a couple episodes, is a blast. And I'm really grateful for it. It's been so fun to watch the show be successful.
Yeah, you and the team, I think you really do honor the work. Like I've been, again, in a place of privilege where I feel like honored to have access to some of the communities that I've had access to. But I think what I notice, regardless of if it's the Serhant ecosystem, the McGilvery group that I work with, or some other people that have just kind of shepherded things that I'm passionate about and giving me advice, when I meet these people, they honor the work and they're very humble in that, and that they're always trying to learn. And I think that's what you guys really do put out there internally. And I've seen it, right? Like stuff that people don't necessarily see online. They normally think, whether it's me with Scott or me with Ryan, that I'm doing it because of the photo op and that's what makes me successful. And I've said this 1,000 times. It's actually not. That's probably the most least valuable thing. It might get a lot of likes, but it is the people behind the scenes and the ecosystem that's valuable. And I do think you have to choose to align yourself with leadership and ecosystems that speak to your core values. And there's ecosystems that aren't for me, and I know that for sure. I've chosen to partner with specific ones. But that said, I'd be so curious, because I don't think I've ever asked you this. Sure. What actually brought you into the Serhant ecosystem?
Oh man, that's a good question. So it had come about. I had a job that I didn't like very much, and I knew I had not been there very long, and I knew it wasn't the right fit for me. And my best friend interviewed for a job at Serhant, didn't get it. It was a content job, but did hit it off with the recruiter. And when I saw this job for live producer, my job has morphed several times since this initial interview. He emailed the recruiter and was like, I know the guy. Interviewed with them. Interviewed with Kyle Scott, the president at the time.
That makes sense.
Yep. And I did have a news background, which helped. Kyle was also a news guy. And it was one of those things where every interview I was like, oh, I got this. Like I totally got this. And I was really, really excited. And I was so excited about the opportunity. Two things. One, I knew Ryan Serhant. I've worked in news. Brian is on the news all the time. I think I've produced like multiple segments that were on shows he's been on, but like you don't meet the guests on your shows most of the time. So I know that I have, but I've done so many at this point. So one, I was really excited for the opportunity to write for someone like Ryan, to be the person that puts these words on paper that he reads, that we go over together, like to kind of help him communicate. Not the needs I help, but like to really be the one facilitating that was like such an honor, still such a thrill, still such a pinch me. But hearing more about the vision, which was, sometimes Ryan thinks about like sell it as like the Peloton for sales, right? Like we want to create this community of people. Like we have coaches and strategists. We want you to feel attached. We want them to like all have their own specialties. And then we're going to have this community who really, who's all in, who wants to better themselves, who wants to work hard. We are not doing the work for them. We're going to give them the tools so they can work together and do it themselves. Coming from news, I was done. I was so done. I had written too many headlines about people who had died during COVID. I was like updating the numbers every morning in my kitchen, just miserable. And politics, I wanted something else. I wanted something positive.
Sure.
And learning about this community and then getting to meet the people in the community and seeing this, people are just so happy to be together and excited to talk to us because they see us on these Zooms and at our events. That was key. I wanted to help people. I got into news and journalism in general because I wanted to help people. I wanted to tell stories. I wanted to inform people. And that's what I'm doing now. But in a way where I feel it a lot more. When you're in news, you write something, you put it, the script in the prompter, you hope the right people watch it, you hope that it's helping. And here you get to interact, you see firsthand. I have watched careers just kind of blossom and grow. And then when I also get the opportunity to be like, you want to talk on stage? Like, do you want to do that? Like, that's like such a thrill for me. And I'm honored to be in the position. I pinch myself a lot. These events that we have, I always say like the community is, they're authentic and they're, I don't know what, in the best way. Like it's like cheesy. We're just happy. Like we're all working hard and we're pumped to be here. And like, this is nice. And as like a kind of a sarcastic guy, I'm like, you know what? It is nice. I don't even have like any snark. This is just a nice time. And that was what I was looking for. And that's the environment that we've been able to create. And I've played a small part in, and it's a blast. It's an honor.
Yeah. I think you're more of the type of person where back in the day, you get a job, you want security, you want to make sure that you have your pension and your retirement fund. And a lot of that has changed, right? A lot of those companies don't exist anymore. And if you want to be in a giant machine, that's great. But I see in you somebody who's looking for purpose in their work that transcends obviously just a paycheck. Like you said, you want to help people and watch them grow. I also think from the time that you got onboarded with Serhant and I met you early on to the role that you're in now, you can earn opportunity, right? Like by being there and showing up and figuring out what you're passionate about, where you fit in the ecosystem. I think leaders are providing platforms where people that are skilled with abilities are going to come in and fit themselves into the system, and the system will change. Like, I've gone through 2 terminations recently, one that was positive, the one that wasn't so positive, but in both situations, one was a great growth opportunity for that person and we weren't the place for them anymore. And the other one was they just didn't have the same aligned core values. I'm sure there's a place that exists for that person where the core values are in alignment with what they do, but that's okay. The people in my organization, though, I talk to all the time about, this is what you're doing now. Here's an example. Alana does marketing communications. Mm-hmm. And I told her, you're early on in your career. We're going to give you the support that you need to learn, but you're working on multi-million-dollar developments and you need to start thinking and acting like that, because in a year, you're going to have that experience. So like, think about the job and the work you want to be doing and find somewhere where they're going to let you tinker. And Ryan reminds me a lot of one of my old bosses, Mike Smith, who basically gave me 3 of his restaurants, one that was doing well, one that was failing, and one that was really failing, and he was going to close the doors. And he's like, I'm going to close this place in 2 months if we can't turn a profit. Have fun with it. And like, I was making pizza, running out into traffic, getting in people's cars just to get it going. And like, when you find a place that lets you tinker in the ecosystem and figure it out, I think you really found something that is fun to do, right?
I couldn't agree more. I was handed the keys early, and then they gave me keys to a whole other car too. Yeah. After it, and I'd earned it. And I think there were definitely some times where I was like, I've never done this before. I've never thrown an event, actually. Like I was like, I think I can do this. I'd seen some, and I every time I got scared. I just remembered, like, once I do this, I will never be able to say that I didn't do it again. I just have to do it the first time. Let me just do this. They gave me a lot of rope, never hung myself. thankfully. But like what I would say too is like every time I felt like, oh God, I don't know what to do next, I turned around and someone was behind me.
Yeah.
You know, whether it was Jennalise, Kyle in some situations, like there was always someone who had my back,
Yeah.
and I didn't always need to call on them, but like I could just like see it, or they would be like, "What are you doing? Why are you doing that? Like you're actually doing too much. You should tell that person to do that," which is something I need to hear a lot.
For sure.
That's something Jennalise is great at. Like sometimes she'll just check in and be like, "What are you doing?"
I've seen that in action actually. When
Yeah,
I was at Salad, I saw it multiple times.
yeah.
And Jen was one of the first people I met very early on. And it was interesting because when I got to Ryan initially through Jazz Takar, who connected
Mhm.
me with Jordan. Jordan actually had a connection to London. I came in, met Ryan, asked him 3 questions. He left. I sat down with Krista, Jen, and who else
Mhm.
was it? Social Joe back in the day.
Okay.
And Jen and I, we had a great conversation. I sent her some SOPs that I had. She sent me some stuff on new dev. And I still remember to this day, like what she gave me on the new dev side changed our life in terms of
Yeah.
where we were heading in new development. But what I was going to say about that is the best relationships I've ever seen are exactly that. Like you're in a place of imposter syndrome and you start feeling scared and you turn around and there's people behind you that want to see you win.
Mhm.
But those people are also willing to give you some tough love and
Yeah.
say to you the things that they're actually thinking. Where how many organizations exist out there where the culture is toxic, there's office infighting, they'll never tell you what you really think, what they actually really think, which is the most important thing that you actually need to hear, right?
One of the reasons I feel so empowered when I am handed a new set of keys is I know exactly where I stand. I never question it. I I know what they want. I know if they're happy. I know what the goal is. I know how they feel about me. There's no guesswork. And I think that's like that is so valuable to me. I have worked in a lot of corporate settings where it's a lot harder. There's a lot more like people you have to go through, and it feels like you're playing like a
A
game
game.
all the time. And I'm not bad at it. You know, I can do it, but it is exhausting.
It's
And I
not real.
like I
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
and
inauthentic and
it's
it drains you, I
when
find.
you're performing all day, and everything's a little bit of a performance, but when you're just performing all day and trying to figure out like, did that go well? And I hate that because it makes it really hard to do your job.
Yep.
Is you're so worried about how like that people are perceiving you and did that go well? Was that right? I don't question that here. I know, and I know what they want. I know how they feel. That wasn't good. Cool. We'll never do it again. I don't make the same mistakes twice.
I have
And
a
that's
burning question actually that
yeah,
I'm going to
right.
interject. I absolutely suck at giving criticism to people and
Mhm.
doing exactly what I'm talking about because
Yeah.
I always look at, I blame myself for everything. If for some reason they didn't know how to do something, I didn't give them the training, whatever. But when somebody's trying to deliver something negative to you and they're in a leadership position, how can somebody like myself tell somebody what I'm expecting of them without them taking it personally? I'd love some advice on that.
That's a great question because I struggle with it myself, but I can tell you how I like to receive it, which is like short and to the point. And it's just like, yeah, hey, I wouldn't have done that. Here's what you should do next time. Or like,
Mhm.
why did that happen? How can I help you next? What do a thing I like to say is when I've been in these situations, and it's still like I stress about it, is like, how can I make it so this doesn't happen again? How can I help you so that next time this doesn't happen? What
Yeah.
went wrong? So I like to understand where they're at. But sometimes like I'm thinking about Jenna Elise and she'll just be like, no, I don't like
She's
it.
absolutely to the
Yeah.
point, which is
And then
key,
I'm just
right?
like, and actually that's great. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. Like I don't, it's not that deep, right? Like she'll just say like, no, I don't like that one.
But she has a consistency where I think, like, when she says that to you, there's no ulterior motive. Where I
None.
think the problem relies if you haven't built trust or you haven't been consistent with people,
Yeah.
they will build a narrative in their head. Oh, he said that to me that way. What else isn't he telling me? And then it
A lot of
festers
it,
and then it
a
becomes
lot of it
something
comes
else.
down to culture.
Yeah.
So if you are running a place where people feel good and they do feel empowered, when someone messes up and you or does something that isn't quite right and you tell them about that, it doesn't feel like the end of the world.
Yeah.
I'm if I have done something and I'm struggling to like come up with a true example, it's not like but if something didn't quite hit right, I know that there are so many other things that I'm doing that are going well, and there are so many things that like my role is needed, my work is valued. That just it's small. It's just okay. You didn't like that. I won't do it again. And Ryan has done the same thing. He's just been like, hey, this could have been stronger. And sure enough, was like, that could have been. And I took it and I ran with it. And he's also very to the point. You know, we don't dwell. We don't
Yeah.
like talk about it. It's just, you know what, you didn't quite connect the thoughts the way I wish you had in this script.
Well, let's
Do you
make it
see
better next
how
time.
there was, yeah, do you see how there
Simple.
was no
Lots
payoff
more
here?
opportunity, right?
Yeah. And I was like, that okay, that's a good note. Won't happen again. You know, he was right. I'm thinking of a specific one. He went through my script. I would also call this like lukewarm feedback, stabbed in the chest. I was like, oh man, you know, it still hurts. But
For
I
sure.
read it and I was like, it wasn't even like bad. It was like lukewarm. And I just you know, I could have connected it all better. It felt like there wasn't a payoff. And he was right. And then that was great though. Because I was just like, I get it. Now I have a little bit more of a vision of what you want. You want to see like really instructional, really simple, done. I can do that.
100%.
So I think that's what is so nice is generally I know I'm appreciated. The culture is good. I don't feel scared about anything. So when something's wrong, it's just a little. We'll fix it. We'll figure it out. You know, and it's no one dwells. It's
And
not
they
dwell.
let you try stuff, right? Like you have some creative control in your projects where, you know, you can execute and come back and make mistakes. And I think that's a big part of it as well, too, right?
100%. I think I really strive. I thrive, I should say, when I get to just go. I really hate getting like pulled into the details, to like step by step updates. Like I get impatient, and I think
Yeah.
that's like the news producer in me too. I'm like, I don't know, I gotta write a script, man. I don't have time to talk to you about it. I can't go through each step. We can tell me what you want in the beginning of the day. I'll get it to you by the end of the day. Here you go. And I think that's another thing. Like here, we don't get bogged down in like checking in. I mean, I also I've been given a lot of trust, and I've made good on it. So yeah, I just get the freedom to do what I think is right based off the conversations. I'm not just like going rogue, writing sales scripts. But we have the conversation. I know what to do. I get to run with it, and that was still a little scary because they did give me in the beginning. I should say that was a little scary because I was like, I want that. Like, I think people should be checking on me. I'm brand new, you guys. Brand new.
Let's be checking on it.
But
Yeah.
that wasn't how you do it, and it's not how you
No,
learn.
for
It's
sure.
not how you grow.
And they are checking on you. You just don't know, probably because of the way that they're doing it, right? And
Exactly.
people, you know, I'm really trying at my brokerage, anyways, trying to create critical thinkers, right? Where, you know, sometimes I will have to sit down and explain how I approach something. We're pitching a development site right now to builders and developers. I'm like, this isn't a buyer for a single family home. We have to talk about like logistics, employment centers, like why would they want to build in this middle of nowhere location? Well, I'm like, because this used to be a middle of nowhere location, and this is going to be that. This was 10 years ago. Now this is a full-blown city. This is going to be a full-blown city. Tell that story. Go.
Mhm.
Right. And I think, I guess from the organization that you work with, when you're training somebody new or you're trying to get them to learn what you learned or stuff you've learned from other people, how do you think you can empower people to become critical thinkers that take risks?
Whenever I'm working with a younger employee who's maybe less experienced, less savvy in any corporate world, I always encourage them to never bring a problem to your boss, bring a solution and lead with the solution. Like, by the way, XYZ happened. And this is why I did XYZ because of this problem. Just so does that sound good? And half the time you're right, you know, and if you're not, they might be another solution. But the last thing you want to do is just, I'm not going to go up to you just to be like, I don't know what story to tell about like this house, right? Like I'm going to throw something at you and tell you this is what are we grabbing right now?
Have you read this?
I haven't.
I'm buying this for you. So hold on a second. I do this with every guest. I like gifting knowledge. So I'm going to have RR reach out to you. Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. Canadian boy. Really cool story. He actually had a gun and almost got shot by cops. Turned his life around and wrote probably one of the best business books I ever read in 2024. And here's a concept, 131. So when I say 131 to my staff, it means you can bring me one problem only if you bring me 3 solutions and which solution you think you should execute. And the chances are I'm going to say yes. And then maybe 2% of the time I'm going to say no because XYZ. And now you know my thought pattern. So teach outcomes, not tasks, if that makes sense, right?
I could not agree with that more. I always have a backup plan too. It's the producer in me. I used to time the shows. So I was like, yeah, if this person's late, if the presser like gets canceled, like I have backup plans. And I approach my whole career that way. When I was news was my first job. So like, yeah, here's the solution. You don't like that? What if we try this? And then, oh, you don't want to do that? I pivot. I can pivot, and I do it with a smile on my face. And I think that another thing that I notice a lot with like younger people is they're really afraid to kill their darlings. You might have worked really hard on something, but if it's not what your boss wanted, or they don't need that anymore, get over it. And the way I see it, and this came from when I was a PA working in news. I always was writing the scripts at the end of the show. They all get floated for time. Like you never hit them. And so many of these young kids would be like, "Oh my, like I worked all day on this." The way I was like, I could have screwed up. There could have been a typo in there. No one will ever know, But everyone knows I did the work. I did the work. They saw that I did the work. Didn't get used, but like it was just I'm building up my experience. Like I'm figuring it out, and it's not personal. My stories never got floated because they weren't personal. My solutions didn't get tossed because they were mine. There was just someone else who wanted to do something else, and then I can go execute on that. So don't be sensitive. Don't be soft. Your work. None of us are doing God's work. We're not doctors here. We're selling houses. We're writing scripts. Don't take it personal. We're gonna do what's best for the company. What's best for the leader. Like make them look good, help them, but don't take it so personal if what you worked on or your solution isn't chosen. As long as you still get to do the work, let it go. And I think I see that. I hate when I see a really good worker especially it's always a young person, get caught up in that because I'm like, guys, you're still here. You're gonna execute something else. Don't get so attached.
There's another, if you actually encounter that, the book I'd recommend you send that person is The War of Art. And it talks about writers, artists, photographers, musicians. It translates into sales, probably production, anything. And it talks about that the actual win is doing the work, right? Like what I said earlier, stewarding the work that you're given. Even if nobody sees it, what you learn doing that piece of work will come back to you down the road. This podcast is a prime example of it, no pun intended. We've ran this since 2015 and it's had like 7 iterations. And, I find that I was wanting more for the show. So I consulted the guys who wrote YouTube Secrets, YouTube Formula, and a few other people. And they're like, pull it off your main channel. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, pull it off your main channel, start its own channel specifically for the podcast because the algorithm will pick it up. It'll be a lot better for you to do that. And it killed my darling, right? And I was like, I was scared to do it. And it's interesting because it's been about a month and a half since we did that. And I can see the glimmers of what they're talking about because already the on-ramp of views to your average person who's looking at it is not very big, but I run 3 channels and it's the fastest I've seen the algorithm figuring out who I am. So I know if I commit to the work over the next year, 2, 3 years, it's going to get to where I need it to be. But the success isn't in the vanity metrics of the subscribers or the views. The vanity metric is in the work and learning as you're going through the process, exactly what you're talking about.
One, awesome. Congrats. Exciting. But 2, yeah, like you get to do the work and it is a privilege. And I think we're all lucky to be doing something. I think you and I are lucky at least to doing things we really enjoy. Like again, every day isn't roses, but I feel I pinch myself sometimes because I'm lucky to be in the position I'm at. I also know there's 100 guys who would kill to do what I'm doing, to be sitting in my seat. And I never forget that. And I think that's also what makes me, I try to come into work with like a really good attitude all the time because I feel lucky to be here. And where this stems from was I had a really terrible boss years ago in news. He was a cranky person. But what he demanded from his team was like super happy, super peppy. And it was like exhausting. Like he'd come in and be like, oh, good morning. How are you? Whatever that ended. But what I realized is that like, actually that's good for everyone. When someone walks in and you're happy to see them like that, yeah, I'm just going to be happy. I didn't like that job. I didn't like that boss, but I'm glad that I had that experience because I realized that like, yeah, I'm lucky to be here. I have a cool job. At the time, my job was cool. It just was difficult. And I think now I kill my darlings with a smile on my face. What am I doing next? Oh, this didn't work? Cool. What can I do after? How do I help? What do I get to do next? And when I get something thrown at me that I've never done before, I think, cool. This is cool. It's cool that I got offered this. It's cool that they trust me, which must mean I can do it. And once this is over, it'll never be my first time. So I'll always be like, I'll have a frame of reference. I will get through this. This is going to be fun. I'm going to learn. And people like that. They respond to it. And I think that's why I'm still a Serhant. I think that's working for me.
100%. Question. I don't know if you can even answer this. Are you guys planning to sell it 2025?
Yes.
Yeah, that's incredible to hear, because I do think it'll be interesting to see how you guys level up from the last one. Because I do feel like, again, objectively, it was seamless. We got a lot of value from it. And I told the team, 2 of my team members came with me. I was there as well. And the balance of them, like, if we're going to look at events this year, Sell It's going to rank at the top of where are we going for real estate activations. Brandon Bogart came on the podcast. His episode dropped last week, slaughtered it. I didn't even know him. And like, I'm in the ecosystem. So like, you think I would have known him by this point?
Yeah.
But their presentation, like, I took a bunch of tactical stuff where I'm like, I suck at holding my team accountable from a standards perspective. That has changed dramatically directly because of that. So I think the value, what you said earlier, like, how can we help these people get better? You delivered on that exponentially. So I'm curious to see what you guys do this year.
Yeah. Well, one, thank you. Like, I'm excited. I'm really thrilled to hear that. Honored to even like get that kind of compliment. It was a true labor of love. So many people at the company. It was an all hands on deck. That's also like what made it my favorite.
Yeah, your team
thing I've ever done. Like, there was no piece of Serhant. Like, obviously I work in the Sell It world, but every single person, every department, Josh, the president of Serhant, was like, whatever you need, like, we're here for you guys. And it was a labor of love. Like, the new dev were helping, because they throw so many parties. They were helping me find caterers. They were helping me, like, they got on stage when I asked them to. So I do worry about topping it. But we will. Like, it'll be. I think I like bask in the success of it, knowing that, it's now 2025. We are going to do it. It's coming. It'll probably be in the fall. That's literally all I can say now. But yeah. I know that it will come together. These things always do. But this was fun, and it was a really, really fun experience. I enjoyed it. I also would say this was the most relaxed I'd felt at an event like this. Yeah. There were always stresses. Things happen last minute, but I'm also, you're prepared for that. This one felt really good. I felt it in the lead up. I felt it while it was happening. And I felt it when I woke up the next morning. I was like, that rocked. And, how will we top it? Good question. We will. There's nowhere to go but up. We just keep progressing. And I'm excited. Not scared, very excited.
No, it's when I look at it, I can tell you why I think it went so well is you've built up an incredible team of leaders. Like, again, I'm privileged to have known Sydney, Raf, everybody on the back end, Jen with her headset. Like, I think of Anissa and everybody that was kind of running everything throughout the entire event. And it was interesting now that you say that, because the Sell It squad was there, but I saw production, I saw studios, I saw the staff, I saw agents from Sell It, I saw the cast, like all the different people. And I think if you can really focus on building up leaders around you, the work tends to get executed at a higher level, because if you're playing your position, that person's got that covered. If something messes up over there, they have that independent authority to execute and fix it, so that everything kind of comes together. And the other thing is, I also think you said, kill your darlings. When things go wrong, it's a really big deal for you. But to most of the people at the event, it's a blip on their radar. They probably don't even notice it, right? So I'm sure that's something that you have a lot of experience with.
That's the beauty of anything live. And I can get really frustrated like with podcasts, for instance, because I tend to do, on the producer side, this easy. Love to just talk. But afterwards, you got to like listen back, come up with a theme, figure all this stuff out. I get impatient. I like to just go. Oh, something failed. Move on. Let's keep it moving. Let's go. I respond really well to live events. It might be like the Irish Catholic in me where I also don't react to anything. Like you'll never know that I'm freaking out inside. It's something I like really worked hard to train. Like I have a great poker face when anything is going wrong and I keep my voice really calm, but like inside I'm like, whoa. But I get off on that thrill.
Sure.
I think there's like something like really, really exciting. Whereas if you're filming, and I do this with Ryan too. Like I do it at Serhant. We film courses. We do all those things. It's great. Like it's a cool part of the job, but it can also drag. You're doing like multiple takes. You're trying it again. You're doing lights here when you're live and at an event and something does go wrong. You have no choice but to keep going. And that's exciting for me. Like, and you're right. Most people don't notice. As long as you keep moving and you play it off, no one's paying attention. And as long as you're delivering the content that's good, you have the right people on stage, you never run out of food and drinks. That's a disaster. It hasn't happened to me. Everything's fine. And I think knowing that and being, a little bit later into my career at this point, it's much easier to keep that level of calm. There is less internal freaking out. But that's part of the fun. Is like something is going to go wrong. So how are you going to fix it? How are you going to fix it on the fly? And I don't always know. I have ideas and plans, but you got to think really fast. Somebody's late. Okay, we're switching up the whole schedule. How do we do this? Like, let's go. Let's do it. And it's a blast. That's what makes this so fun. I like the thrill.
Well, I'm shooting this from my home studio. Normally I'm in office on Thursdays, but things change. Remember shooting podcasts here, and like my landscaping guys were coming, blowing leaves out of this during a live podcast once. And every problem's an opportunity to refine. I really appreciate you making time for the listeners. If anybody's curious about Brian Henry, his background, sell it, I would encourage you to connect with him directly. Where is the best place for the audience to find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. That would probably be like, but number one. I am on Instagram. It's not that exciting, but LinkedIn is probably the spot you're going to want to find me. But you can find me on Instagram too. It's Brian Henry, 2 Y's.
Awesome. Or send me a message. The Prime Nation is always allowed to reach out to me directly to connect with guests. That's why we do the show. I want to connect you with people that I've had the privilege to know over the years. I consider Brian and the whole Serhant and Sell It family. They've been with Prime for a very, very, very long time, and their fingerprints are all over our success. If you want it to be on yours, then just reach out to me directly. I'll connect you with Brian, and looking forward to seeing what you guys are doing in 2025. And I'm sure Prime will be a part of that in some capacity. So thanks for coming on the show, Brian.
Definitely, Justin. Thank you for having me. What an honor. What a privilege. What a fun way to spend my afternoon. This is awesome.
I appreciate it. I'll catch you on the next one, brother.